isn't. There's no cool way to look while you're checking a mic.
Or sucking liquid through a straw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
There's no way to look cool, so just fucking do it.
Just go ahead and, just Nike that
Who
shit.
can't Nike that shit?
So I wanted to start this out with pay a little respects to Mark Zuckerberg, who had
Press F in the chat.
such a bomb of a joke.
Oh, no.
Are you ready for this?
Yes, please.
Now, look, I get that a lot of people aren't sure that we're serious about this. I know that we don't exactly have the strongest reputation on privacy right now, to put it lightly.
That was just all silence. All silence after it. So listen to how amused he is with himself in the beginning.
Now, look, I get that a lot of people aren't sure that we're serious about this. I know that we don't exactly have the strongest reputation on privacy right now, to put it lightly.
Oh, God, it hurts.
Not even one sound about it. And what I think is so crazy about it is you watch, like, it's better if you have a visual. So just go ahead and if you Google or you look on YouTube and you search Mark Zuckerberg privacy joke, it'll come up.
Ugh.
Because he clearly has no sense of public's reception to how bad their privacy has been.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he would even make light of that and not just be like, hey guys, look, we really fucked up. Like, this is a serious problem. We're trying to do what we can to mitigate this issue. It's like, this is funny to him. And there's so many weird things about Facebook in the sense of, I was reading something the other day that was talking about how through data they've collected from users that you may know, even if you don't have a Facebook profile, like I don't, they will make you a shadow one that sort of then links all these things together. So they are so beyond the pale of just spying and privacy.
I deactivated mine, but it does nothing.
Did you permanently delete it or you just deactivated it?
I just deactivated.
Yeah.
It does nothing, but at least I don't get any emails anymore.
Well, it's so crazy because like even my boomer father who loves it, he's totally addicted to it, and that's kind of the generation they're catering to now. I think we're all on Instagram, but he was even saying that it's fucking busy and noisy. You heard him talking about it a little bit, I think, about how he's just like, it's absolutely insane about how busy it is. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I do not want to ever spend another minute of my life on that godforsaken website.
It's pretty horrible.
It is. It's just a cesspool of misinformation and people trying to reach out to you because they want to sell you something in a pyramid scheme. It's like, leave me alone, please.
Or just brands or things you're supposed to like, or
multi-level marketing.
Multi-level marketing. Speaking of brands, Nike gave Desmond is Amazing, which I think we've talked about.
Oh, was it Nike?
No, well, it was Converse, but Converse is owned by Nike.
Oh, fuck, dude.
Yeah, so they gave Desmond is Amazing a corporate sponsorship.
Yeah,
now.
Desmond is that kid drag queen.
Yeah, the 9-year-old drag queen.
Is he still 9?
I don't know, 10. He can't be a
He's
teenager
so
yet.
young.
Yeah, it's really pretty crazy. And it's one of those things. I was listening to this interview that Tim Pool, who's, if you don't know who Tim Pool is, he's kind of like a sort of a milquetoast but well-intentioned reporter in a way. But he talks about, current events, and he's sort of a lefty, but he did an interview with this guy David Pakman, who is basically white young Turks. I mean, in terms of like where his opinion lies, it's very just left to a fault, to where he won't even say when anything's wrong. He won't apologize for anything. Will never say that he got something wrong, and Tim will. So Tim actually has quite a bit more integrity. But David Pakman made the point of, Tim, like 90% of your, I think 75% of your videos are all focused on the left, and they kind of do a service to the right in terms of making the left look crazy. And it did give me pause, because I was thinking about that is a lot of where my criticism lies, generally speaking, is on the left. Then I thought, like, you know what? Fuck it. Of course it is, because this is the team that I want to do better and actually win. But they just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So it's like one of those things of, if you were really into a football team and they had a shitty season, you would want the shitty players traded off and you'd want the coach replaced. Right. Obviously. And I feel like the Democrat establishment is like some shitty third-tier coach that is making millions of dollars for doing a shitty job. And then we have new recruits like AOC, whose message is so fucking retarded that we have to like placate her and pretend that in any criticism of her, she just calls it sexist or racist. So we have such a shitty fucking team right now, and the Republicans are just totally united. I mean, completely. Mm-hmm. Like even the Never Trumpers they got drummed out pretty quickly, and now it's all just Trump train for them and hashtag winning and all that shit.
Are we gonna loop this back to Desmond? How did we get here?
We were talking about. Oh shit! I don't know how we got here. I mean, what
well, the thing is, so like my thing about Desmond and his corporate sponsorship is like we've already.
Oh, I know. Sorry, I connected it that way because things like Desmond are what we are doing wrong. Stop doing that. Like it is not okay to. I mean that kid can exist however he wants to exist, or but it shouldn't be a corporate sponsored. And the fact that like it's getting corporate sponsored just proves that we have a lot of fucking money on our side and for our causes. But anyway, that even ones that we don't want.
I was going to say in the past, we've already woken up to us being exploited. Why did we fall back asleep to this and now suddenly celebrate our exploitation,
Right.
Like this poor kid, his parents probably fucking milk him for every cent he can make. Why are we so accepting of this exploitation of, I don't know, queerness, I guess?
I think because people who aren't, and it's pretty interesting because like a lot of gay people that I know are pretty divided on this issue. Because it does come down to that thing of like, okay, do I have a problem with him dressing like that or doing that? No, I'm not a conservative, so I don't really care what anyone does in their private space. I'm pretty like, as long as there's no victim involved. But I think with these parents, what's kind of happening is we're scared to criticize them on the left because this is seen as progress, and I would disagree. I would see it as exploitation. And I think with the parents, what they're doing, I think a lot of these cases we see where they're choosing to raise the kid non-binary or any of these kinds of things that really is not, the kid is the victim in this because they're not really getting a say in, how their life is being manipulated. And I think a lot of these parents, it's like a Munchausen by proxy thing. It's kind of like, it's like a new version of it. It's where, and if you guys don't know what Munchausen by proxy is, it's basically like in The Sixth Sense when the mother was poisoning the little girl to get sympathy. And this is a real thing that happens. It's a psychological phenomenon. It's mostly women, and they'll poison their kid, keep them sick, and then get sympathy from the neighborhood or whatever else. And then there's just Munchausen, which is where you pretend to be ill in order to get sympathy. And I think that a lot of these parents have Munchausen by proxy, but are doing it a different way now, where they're making their kid into this sort of lefty icon, but meanwhile confusing them with either giving them hormones at a super young age or raising a kid non-binary, which any childhood specialist would tell you that's a terrible, terrible idea to confuse children about their identity. It's just,
right,
especially with like when object permanence isn't even in the case. It's just in the picture rather. I mean, any childhood developmental psychologist would tell you this is a horrible, horrid idea. And it's obviously like a projection of some sort as well, if you aren't Munchausening it. But
dude, I mean, with this corporate sponsorship thing, I mean, Converse already sponsored Miley for Pride. Miley's not, I don't think she's in any way LGBT. I think she's just an ally.
Isn't that hilarious how many celebrities are doing that now?
Yeah, but she partnered with Converse to make Pride-themed shoes that were rainbow Converse. And it's like, Jesus, dude. Like, how obvious can you be? You're trying to sell us a product. It's so blatantly obvious that this is just an exploitation of our identities.
Even in a more existential way, the actors that I have seen that are not in any way identified, like they've not gone through anything.
They're the ones who vouch the most, and it's
not that, but like also people like who's the kid that played the Flash, the really weird annoying kid?
Evan Peters?
Ezra Miller, yeah. Right?
They both did, but Ezra Miller plays him now.
Now, yeah. And him saying that he's like identifies as queer, but he's actually like straight. It's just kind of like,
is he straight?
I don't know. Maybe he's not a good example, but
super gay.
Give me another. There's lots of examples. I mean, Halsey, another one. Like, come on, lady. Yeah. Like, it's just like they adopt this or co-opt rather this queer identity in order to give them as a product. It enhances their product, which is them as a brand, and it's just really. It's really annoying, and it's all these people that we have to support because they're seemingly on our side, but it's such a snake in the grass situation. Like even the same thing as I sent you that meme the other day about, here's a Pride parade sponsored by Chase Bank, and I remember when I first started seeing that at Pride events, I'm like, what the fuck is this? like this is now, and we're pretending we're so fucking oppressed, but a giant mega corporation is going to sponsor it, and like I don't know, it's just such a weird dichotomy. But
It's profitable to be on that side.
totally.
So
Yeah.
why not embrace it as a corporation?
Yeah.
Or as a pop star product.
Yeah. Exactly.
Why not embrace it? Because you'll just have a bigger audience or make more money, whatever.
Well, even some. Well, yeah. Never mind. I won't say
Dude,
that.
well, I mean, let's talk about Halsey at the fucking Met Gala. Bombed.
That's a good segue.
She
I,
bombed it.
I didn't
She terrible.
Did I see what she wore? I don't know.
No, probably not, because it
Let's-
wasn't important.
Again, we have a lot of listeners that may not even know what the fuck this is. So the Met Gala is basically this giant. Sean's in fashion, so he's not going to have
Do you want me to
negative
explain it?
opinion of it. But no, I can. Well, let me see if I'm
Do you want
going
me to do it neutrally?
Let me. No. I'm going to give my saucy opinion, and then you can chime in
Okay.
neutrally and explain to me why I'm wrong about feeling this way.
Sure.
So, and I already kind of have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but it'd be good to have it out there anyway. So the Met Gala is where a bunch of like all this kind of big A-list celebrity types go to the Met Museum for a charity event where Anna Wintour from Vogue themes the event. So, and in all the things that they dress in tend to be very over the top. It's kind of like almost like they're all set pieces in a way, but they're clothing, so they're like semi-functional. I view it as the most. It's the absolute apex of privilege, like in this country in terms of celebrity, wealth. No one would give you shit for wearing this kind of stuff. You're not really interesting or brave. It's just peak Hollywood self-congratulatory silly horseshit. And that's the way that I have always viewed it. And I don't even have that opinion of fashion in general. This particular event really like chaps my ass for some reason. It's so self-congratulatory to the lowest giving people on the planet in terms of any substance other than the movies they sometimes put out or music. But even then, it's like it's all shit anyway. So give me the more positive review.
Okay, sure. So, I mean, I'll just say, like, I agree it is a gross display of privilege. Aside from that, the Met Gala has been, for me at least, or that I've seen, was sort of like the start, I think, of like this not underground, but like this break the internet hashtag, without explicitly saying that they are.
How long has it been going on for?
Years.
Okay. I mean, do you have like a rough estimate or not really?
At least a decade, as long as I've been conscious, I think.
Okay.
Or conscious of it.
Go ahead and keep explaining. I'm going to look.
Okay, so, Anna Wintour hosts this event at the Met. She themes it. This year's theme was camp, not like going camping, but camp as in...
But they all said going camping, which was so... I don't know. They all had the same fucking joke. Do you notice that on Twitter? They're like, they would post the pictures of themselves as celebrities and be like, going camping.
Because they have no idea what camp is.
Well, but even Casey Musgraves did it, who actually pulled it off.
Oh, yeah. The thing is, I think the Met Gala is a really wonderful way to act as a really wonderful filter for stylists and designers.
So
what do you want to say?
It started in 1948.
Okay, it's
So
been going on for
forever,
fucking
yeah.
decades, dude. So this ongoing tradition is, sure, it's a display of privilege, but it's also a display of taste and a display of talent. I think the stylists and designers are the ones who
Sure.
should shine through.
And that's I think that is actually one of the, and I think partly I even got more sour on it because I know what you do, and it's almost like and I think a lot of it maybe parallels my work in a lot of way, which is like I'm creating a product for somebody who doesn't deserve the praise for performing it.
Yeah.
And it's like a really weird position to be in of like, yeah, it's not terribly it's not very nice to say that, but it's the truth. I think that most writers and producers feel the same way of just. I mean, I don't necessarily like fame is not something that's terribly interesting to me, but recognition is, and I feel like the way in which these dummies wore these outfits that probably many, many, many hours were put into, and time and people and teams, it's all about the person who's wearing it.
Right. I think it shifted towards that. In the past, it was more like an art gallery, a walking art gallery. And I think this year's theme really showed us who recognized that and who didn't. People like, unfortunately, people like Shawn Mendes and Halsey, who show up just looking pretty, totally missed the mark, and are there as themselves, not as the art that they're wearing.
What the fuck was fatty Lena Dunham doing? What the hell was she doing? I don't know.
She did.
That was the
come
ugliest
as the theme.
Honestly, dude, when I saw, but what was it even about? Like, I don't know.
So her potato
gross.
sack dress was like a pink satin short dress, and it said rubberist on the front with like gloves, rubber gloves, and it's a fetish thing. There's a designer who makes clothes based on these fetishes. So like her partner, whoever she was with, was wearing one that said lunar or like a loon or something like that, because that fetish is balloons, whereas Lena Dunham's dress said rubberist, fetish is rubber.
It was pretty funny to see the picture.
It's camp, by the way.
Yeah, I get it. It was just funny to see the pictures of her, because she's clearly not an A-list celebrity anymore.
No.
Because it was only like one of those sort of sideline pictures. It wasn't one of like the main pictures that everyone seemed to get. So that gave me a little bit of schadenfreude.
Well, the thing is, like, she was on theme, but it wasn't enough. Like with a lot of people who came to the Met Gala.
But I mean, Shawn Mendes is so famous that they would just tell him he did a great job.
Gosh, they interviewed him. They did like a 30-second interview with him on the pink carpet. And the interviewer was like, so what do you think of camp? What do you think of this year's theme? And he's like, I don't know. That's a really hard question to answer. I don't really know how to answer that or how to explain it. And it's like, because you have no idea what camp is.
Well, and I think the other thing,
and your stylist didn't know what camp is either.
And this is what I was telling you in the text, is like,
so
these themes are so hard to deal with, because for these celebrities take themselves so fucking seriously. They could never it would be so hard for them to do something that would make people laugh at their expense. And so I think that's why a lot of them didn't take it seriously.
Right.
But that's why it was fun to see the ones that did. Like Casey Musgraves, I wouldn't necessarily put into that, because she still looked fucking hot.
She was wearing. Amazing. Yeah, she nailed it.
But this is the one thing that I'll ever give credit to Cardi B for, is that she just is camp. That's kind of her whole fucking thing.
Exactly.
So she crushed it, because she's a fucking walking joke anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's like, of course, this makes sense.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, did you enjoy it? Did you watch it live?
So I didn't watch it live. I just watched I looked up the photos of everybody who showed up yesterday. I did that. And it was fine. The vast majority of people were not on theme. Anna Wintour wasn't even really
she takes herself really fucking seriously.
She does, and it was embarrassing for her. It's like, why didn't you go over the top? She wore like a feather cape, like a feather shawl, and that's not enough for me. Not enough. I would have loved to see her do something totally out of her element, like wear a suit. I think I saw this in a YouTube video, but I'm blanking on the guy's name, where he was just saying, like, she should have worn a suit. She should have done something that she's never done before, because that would be camp for Anna Wintour. And if you don't know what camp is, it's just like extravagance and sometimes leaking into poor taste. It's basically like, look at any drag queen and
that's a good
look at Trixie Mattel. That's camp in like its purest form. That's camp extract. And a lot of people just missed the mark. Harry Styles too. I was telling you, I wish he had
going
done
for. I don't
femininity.
Why?
I don't know. But the thing is, what I had wished he had done.
Do you remember? Did you ever hear that Chris? No, I don't know if it was Chris Rock. It might have been Dave. It was Dave Chappelle, actually. I don't know if he actually said it in a stand-up special or not, but he was talking about how whenever like black men get into Hollywood and go into movies, they always make them like wear dresses, and how it's like
really
and it actually is a pretty universal truth. Like Martin Lawrence, like all these like really big black actors have had to do some movie where they had to end up in a dress. And he was saying that he was doing some movie and they kept pressuring him to do it, and he's like, no, I don't want to do it. And they kept. It's almost like it was like, come on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was weird to me to see all the men like not be men in this. It was so strange to me. Like Jared Leto's thing, all of them were so feminine and silly, and to that point, like, because even 10 years ago, wearing a dress if you were a man was funny, but now we have to take it really fucking seriously. So then, weren't they kind of low key mocking it at the same time? Then, like, are we back to that point where
I don't know,
a man wearing feminine clothes is funny? I
didn't feel that way. I didn't think it was like every man was trying to be a woman.
Like at least 65%.
When you're given a theme and you're going to the Met Gala, you can't wear a black suit. You can't wear a traditional men's outfit. So what do? You venture outside of that.
Right,
And of course that looks like femininity, but it isn't always.
But I mean, even like, okay, so Shawn Mendes, you said, was going for like an Elvis thing, right?
No, he wasn't, but that's what I wish he would have done.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So if he would have worn like the jumpsuits from when he was in Vegas, it would have been perfect. It would have been completely spot on. I mean, like with a fashion flair to it, obviously, like a modern fashion flair, but still like those really goofy jumpsuits that Fat Elvis used to wear, that would have been brilliant. And still a masculine outfit. But yeah, it was really strange to me to see that, and just again, like trying to get the tone on, well, what is this? What is this about? Like this kind of feminizing men thing, and in fashion, I guess. So whatever. But I feel like every fashion campaign that gets any attention now is when they put men in dresses. That's kind of all anyone seems to really care about, or at least like on my radar in terms.
I think it's a fad, but we're gonna see actual trends in men's fashion soon. I hope
so too.
Because this dress thing is a fad. It's not going to stick around. Men don't have the silhouette for dresses. And that's just how it is. But this Harry Styles thing just really like upset me, because there was somebody who did do Le Jazz Hot, which is the half male, half female, straight down the middle.
I saw that, but it didn't look very good.
His name was Michael Urie. Or his name is Michael Urie. He didn't die last night. But
it was so funny how many of my conservative friends sent me that picture because they just hated it so much. I'm like, why do you care? Like, this is
weirdos.
Yeah, like it is a weird thing. It's just like this event's not for you.
Why even?
It's barely
comment
for
on
me, and I'm kind of by proxy interested in these.
So
things.
You know how I was saying to you Monday night that I wish Harry Styles had done Le Jazz Hot with the guy on one side, girl on the other.
Right.
Later that evening, I saw that Michael Urie had done it, and I was like, God, I wish I'm so proud of you for being on theme, but I wish it wasn't you who was doing this outfit. I wish it was Harry who was in the half male, half female. It would have made so much more sense with him having one ear pierced, having that pearl earring, wearing a dress on one side, and it also alludes to his bisexuality, which he openly sings about in his tour or in concert. So why didn't he embrace that? Or why didn't he do that? I was so disappointed in my two men, Harry Styles and Shawn Mendes.
Whatever, dude. Shit's gay.
It is gay. It should have been gayer. I'm so fucking mad, dude.
Shit's so fucking
Lady
gay.
Gaga nailed it. Casey Musgraves nailed
Lady
it.
Gaga's camp too, though. I mean, that's just her persona.
Yeah. But she went for the performance. She did 4 outfit changes.
I feel like this has been an event she's been training for her whole fucking life.
The meat dress was camp.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, right. So
the whole paparazzi era was camp.
All right, we should probably move on.
We've lost all of our listeners because nobody cares about queer culture.
Well, I'm realizing in hindsight, like I was listening to the last one, and also Chimney Portions and I talked about it, and he was saying that like we front loaded the front of it with so much gross shit. He's like, I almost tuned out.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I'm like, we probably should have put that at the tail end. And then also when we were talking about fashion on another one, he's like, dude, it's like you could have been speaking Portuguese. I have no idea what you're talking about. But I think that this one might be a little more interesting because I was shitting on celebrities and how stupid they are, plus fashion. Which it is just, again, it's like fashion is probably the most kind of self-congratulatory, weird, like micro bubble of an industry, and that's not shitting on the people who actually make the stuff. Like, what's the job that you want? What's it called? The person who makes the stuff, the designer.
What are you talking?
Designs. Like,
the one who designs, the designer?
No, but the person who makes it. Then they have a name, a French name.
So there's like a first hand. There's like you can work in an atelier.
That's the word.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
which is kind of what I'm doing right now. It's basically like a little costume shop atelier.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So I no disrespect to those people. I mean, they're all super talented and do a lot of hard work. It's more so just the face whores that wear the clothes. Mm-hmm. It's like, to me, it's like they're like as respectable as like a weatherman. It's just annoying. They're just annoying.
Wow, the one time we talk about something that I'm passionate about, you're so quick to move on.
It just, well, I mean, we've been going 20
I know, we've been
minutes.
going 20 minutes on that subject? No. We did like 10 minutes.
No, we did.
Get over it.
All right.
Get over it, you neocons. You fucking straight white men.
Yeah, yuck. Disgusting. Horrible white men. That is kind of segue me into something else, and then we'll get into something a little not funny. Or not very light. But I wanted to talk about just cynicism in general, and just how it's so toxic, and everybody seems to be so deep in it right now. There is just such a staggering lack of optimism amongst people. Just in terms of outcomes, assuming people's intentions. I think that's actually what sort of got me thinking about it today, was that, everyone just seems to want to assume what you think about everything based on one opinion you may have. And it distills humans down to this cartoon character that doesn't... I've never interacted with somebody like that before. I mean, that's not true. Occasionally I have, where it's like they are so dogmatic about either right-wing stuff or left-wing stuff that they are basically the cartoon character. But they're so few and far between in real life. And yet on the internet, everybody's a cartoon character to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And I think also what got me thinking about it is another podcast that we've mentioned a few times, which is Cumtown. One of the hosts on it, Stavros Halkias, I don't know who the person was because I'm not really well versed in tracking these people, but he took a picture with a fan, and their podcast is like ours. It's a little bit more intense in terms of what they say, but nothing. It's all in. They're comedians, so it's all in humor, funny. Anyway, he takes a picture with a fan, and the fan happens to be some neo-Nazi type person. So of course, the host of the show, who is a lefty, is now right-wing, and the podcast is a right-wing podcast, which is just so fucking funny to me. And I've noticed this really clever thing with language where they're labeling everything as far right, as like far right's this mega negative thing, but far left does not have a similar sort of connotation to it, which then brands anything that's right as hyper negative and a problem. And there's not an analogous situation with criticizing left-wing culture at all. And then I would argue that the left wing is the more fascistic group at the moment. And yet right wing is called that, which is, it's really bizarre. But and I think that by proxy, it's making me kind of cynical, but
I don't know, man. I'm living in my own tiny ass Animal Crossing ass world over here. Yeah, I'm talking to my villagers. I'm eating pears, whole, core and all. I'm fucking fishing. Dude, I'm minding my own business. People are talking to me like, and I'm like, hell yeah, dude. Because I'm not cynical. I'm just so like, I'm trying to be blissfully aware. Not blissfully unaware, but blissfully aware. Like, oh, that thing's happening. Maybe that's a bad person. Maybe that's a good person. Who knows? But
it's a very nice
I don't know. I live in a fucking tiny ass town of my own. I'm gonna take care of that town, and this town is my life. Is what I mean to say. This is the metaphor. My friends are my villagers.
I like that.
Always talk to me.
It's very wholesome.
People come in on trains every once in a while. They either stay or leave.
Depending on how right wing your town is. In Animal Crossing.
KK Slider comes in. He plays a song every once in a while. Yeah, calms everybody down, and then. Yeah, I think I can be cynical, but I try my best to not be.
You're not cynical.
Good. I'm glad I come off that way.
I don't think I would date you if you were.
We would just be a pool of negative.
Dude, it would be so bad because like I'm not cynical. I'm like more so I'd call myself like defeatist. I just kind of feel like what's happening is happening. There's not fuck all I can do about it. And I think that it's hard to watch because it just seems like everybody who gets a voice that's kind of interesting or unique gets shut down really quickly. And I have a very bad feeling about this with Cumtown. Like this is going to be the thing.
Really?
Yeah. Or like the thing at least that gets them attention that they didn't want. Because there's already a bunch of articles being written and so it's like, and I think that's the cynical part of me is like, just stop taking away the things that I like. It's kind of like the thing with like Fred Perry shirts, for example. It's like some Proud Boys wear them and behave badly.
They look good, but you shouldn't.
Well, but then
shouldn't align yourself anymore.
No, well, I mean that's the thing is so like you can't like we keep giving Nazis things. Like I don't understand like or not even they're not even Nazis, but it's like it's people who we call Nazis that aren't or like have maybe shitty views of race or whatever else. But then we say, okay, now the okay hand gesture, we can't do that anymore.
Which sucks.
We can't wear Fred Perry's anymore. We can't, which are make everybody look good. Those shirts, you can't. I don't know. You can't. You have to like now be worried about who you take a picture with, because you automatically agree with them if you do that. The next step is who you follow on Twitter, probably. Like, I followed Trump because it's the quickest way to get information from him. So does Shawn Mendes, by the way. I saw that today. And so I'm like, it's interesting, right? It's a kind of...
I noticed that, actually. I don't know when he started following him, but weird. Very weird.
But I think at the same time, I think that what sucks, though, about somebody of that stature, that if someone called him out on it or wrote an article about it, he would apologize, even though he has nothing to apologize for.
Right.
Because you're so scared of losing your stature, because these people are so aggressive and so intense about changing the world to fit their narrative, which the reality is that there's no true narrative. That's an insane ego move. It's all about... I think that's the craziest part about these cartoon characters on both sides, is that their ego is so enormous and they're so certain that they're right about everything. Or correct, rather. But I think that I figured the older I got, which is the case, like, the less I kind of realized I know or have any certainty about. And so, like, every big debate in this country, and I think I've said it on the podcast before, is largely a philosophical debate. It's not a right or wrong. And just sort of mitigating the damage if you were to do certain things. Like, for example, if I were king of the United States today, I would make all drugs legal and taxed and control things like heroin into, like, isolated areas in which you have to go and do it, like clinics. They administer the amount that won't kill you if you want to go that high on it.
Yeah.
And treat it like a health crisis. But every drug would be legal and taxed, because we are never going to win that war. So, like, the argument is this moral thing about, what about children that start doing cocaine? Well, then they'll start doing it. It's like they would have anyway. You're stopping the inevitable on these kinds of things for no reason, and punishing people who aren't violent and don't really pose a threat to society. And so, to me, it's a logistical issue more so than it is a moral one. It's just kind of the same thing with death penalty for me. Like, I'm not against it, really in moral principle, but at the same time, exonerating evidence has gotten people off of death row who have been there forever. And also, it costs the taxpayers way more money to actually execute somebody than it does to have them incarcerated for the rest of their life. So it's sort of like, it's all logistics. And that's really the unsexy, unfun position to take that people don't really find all that interesting, because it's not something you can get angry about. You can't get angry about facts. Well, they do, but you shouldn't. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that are making people cynical, is they don't want to dig beyond the surface of these major issues like abortion, drugs, guns. They want to just keep it super surface, because that's the safe and comfortable place to be. Because your ego is so enormous, you can't admit that you're not that certain, because you shouldn't be. You should question all of it.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, that's it.
Damn, yeah. Should have smoked a blunt before this.
Yeah.
Just zone the fuck out.
Pull that shit up, Jamie.
Pull that shit up. Jamie, what does that say? Go back.
Hmm?
No, up to the top there. No, the top right photo. No, top right. You're just there.
Have you ever seen a chimp with mange? Dude. Fucking savages, man. Or I do the Sam Harris. Hello. Okay. Some housekeeping.
Okay is my favorite.
Okay.
I love doing that.
He does it every time.
Okay. So. I love doing that in real life. Okay. So I also say bokeh.
Bokeh.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I've started just saying bokeh.
Bokeh. I have noticed this too. I think it's very cute. All right, now something kind of dark.
Oh no,
sorry, everybody!
I don't know.
That
Put
wasn't
on your
already dark
boots.
enough. So there was a shooting out in Colorado, like pretty much where I used to live. One kid died, 9 were shot. So this one's weird. Number one, the kid was 18, which
Jesus,
again, it's just
they
it's
keep
so
getting younger.
fucking crazy. And the other one was, the accomplice was 16. The craziest part is this kid was, or is rather, he's still alive. They're both still alive. He looks like he could be gay. And then the 16-year-old is trans.
Jeez.
So and a girl into a man trans. So this does not fit the narrative at all. And it was strange because so he tried to do a lot of damage. So he shot 9 people And then I saw...
Where did the shooting take place?
Highlands Ranch, Colorado, which is like in the Denver
I mean, like what?
A school.
A school, okay.
Yeah. And
high school?
Yeah, and I really am bummed I missed... I don't remember the kid's name, but this kid... he took all the kindergartners and took them to the seniors area to try to save them.
I saw that,
He's the one that ended up dying, which
Yeah.
is really fucking sad. But yeah, so it's so frustrating because there seems to be a complete... The right wing wants to ignore it because they want to just say that there should be no gun control, which is kind of a position that I don't necessarily disagree with, although I do think there are some things that could be examined. But I do very much believe in the chipping away effect, that if we start to let things get chipped away, it'll just keep chipping and chipping and chipping and chipping until there's nothing left, because this has happened a few times historically in the same way, with rights or things that we are, that we should be free to do. I mean, I think guns, it's the same with my drug argument. It's just, you're not, as evidenced by that woman in Los Angeles that's being raided right now. Strange story in Los Angeles. Multi-millionaire woman married to some oil tycoon, owns mansions all over LA. Her LA mansion is being raided right now, and they have found over 1,000 firearms in her house. Jesus. And it's a giant mystery as to why or what's going on there. So hopefully that'll unfold, or it'll just get completely buried because it's a giant conspiracy. But anyway, point being that you can't really control this. You can't control guns. 3D printing is coming. CNC machines will be easy to have in your house. You can, anybody who knows somebody with a CNC machine could mill a lower receiver for an AR and make it automatic. This would not be a problem to do. So like, this is a reality that I think that anti-gun people have to cope with, that you aren't going to stop. In this country, it's not going to stop. So we need to have some curiosity as to why these are happening. And I just see a striking lack of curiosity about that. Why it's all kind of the same demographic. The last few that have happened have been quite a bit different than what happened in New Zealand, for example. Like New Zealand, the guy had a mission, a manifesto target. He just basically wanted to drum up a race war. I mean, he was basically like Charlie Manson, but killed Muslims. But these kids, the one in North Carolina, now Colorado, and the one down in San Diego, were all kind of lefty individuals. San Diego was, it was a synagogue, so it was, but he was very anti-Trump, so that doesn't fit that narrative. And now this kid, like, I don't say their names, but I want you to just see what he looks like, because...
yeah, that's... it's troubling, but you're right. It doesn't fit the narrative if they're gay and trans. When you see him, you're just like, what? Like, oof.
Like he's just a fucking kid.
Yeah.
And it's. I think that it's like there's a strange like narrative in the media right now where it's
shared anti-Trump post on Facebook.
Yeah.
So he's
a lefty. He's lefty. Yeah. And I think that they were saying that it had something to do with him getting bullied or something, but
it's certainly possible.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's just like it was like what I was saying on I don't know if it was the last podcast, the one before, we were talking about just men, and there's something about, I just think that they're not being listened to. And,
right. I think that was last episode.
And I was saying this to a friend, but when I was a little kid, like I was a pretty easygoing, I think a relatively not difficult child, unless I felt like something was happening to me in which I was losing my autonomy, meaning I needed a babysitter, or I needed, or I got into a discussion where I felt like I wasn't being heard. That's like when it would be so frustrating to me as somebody who was speaking before they walked. It was like articulating myself.
Yeah.
Or if I got a response that wasn't satisfactory enough, like a no that didn't have an explanation, it would just set me off.
So you've always been like this?
Always. Yeah. It's just never really changed. But
it's no surprise.
The amount of anger I would feel if I felt like I wasn't being heard was intense, like really intense. And then sex kind of came into the picture, and then my priorities sort of became different. But I think a lot of these kids are just sort of in that mindset still, where they're just stuck. No one's listening to them. They're considered the scourge of the earth, and no one's paying attention to what's wrong with them or what's going on. They're probably all medicated. And what would possess a trans? Like, what's going on here? And no one seems to be curious at all. It just goes the same shit every single time. It's like the right saying mental health, which is probably true, and the left saying, well, it's just guns. And it's like, yeah, that's like, both of those things are probably about 25% of the equation.
Right. There's more to it.
So what's the other 75%? And there's no one asking that question. No one.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. But it's interesting how this shooting incident, as tragic as it was, it doesn't fit the narrative for really either side to report on.
The last three haven't. So
yeah,
that's...
and we've seen that with the So there was the one in San Diego. There's one before that didn't fit the narrative.
North Carolina too was random. It was.
Was
weird.
that the girl?
No,
that was
kind of shaggy-haired boy. He also really
I don't even
young.
remember it because they start to blend together.
They're all. I know, and they're all. But I think the crazy part is they're just all. I mean, the one in San Diego, I think he was 25, but which it's a weird thing to me because I oddly, and I'm probably gonna get shit for this, but it's like I oddly was feeling sympathy for this kid because it's like, he did an evil thing, clearly, but I don't think that 18 is old enough to be considered an evil person. Like you haven't had enough time to. He'll be defined by this evil act, obviously, as an evil person. But there's just something that's really troubling to me about an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old being this tortured for some reason that they want to do something this evil.
Right.
And what was so crazy is so I was watching the footage of him in the court today, and he's just like crying the whole time. Like head down, won't look.
Which kid was this?
The one I've not seen who the other kid is. I just know about the main one. The main
today.
One. Yeah, the one that I just showed you.
The Colorado one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one in North Carolina is a little psychopath. Like he was.
Yeah.
Like you probably saw footage of him saying it's just like I don't know what his. But so he's got some serious issues. But these two didn't. Something seemed different about this one. But it's odd because it's like you'd think that it would be different if it was one person he shot and then was this remorseful about it. But to injure 9 and probably was trying to hit more than that.
Yeah.
Why would you feel this level of remorse now? It's not because you got caught, because you knew that was probably going to happen or you're going to die. So perhaps it is because he's feeling the gravity of the situation now, but what's going on in your head to not weigh that out before you do it?
Right.
And the crazy part about it is I know this is the internet, and that's like radicalizing these people, but I don't know how to mitigate that issue, and I think that's why no one's talking about it, because we don't know how to mitigate that issue without
censorship of the entire internet.
Correct. Which we can't do that. So
there's no way.
But there's something going on with boys right now that I don't know what it is exactly. I wonder if it's because like this kind of like this anti-male message has been around for a long time, but it just everything feels louder with the internet now.
Of course.
And I think that a lot of people, this kid probably included, didn't go outside really and probably just lived in this little internet world. And even the things that I get worked up about, I'm very conscious of the fact that it's because of the things that I read and the sources I choose to dig into. And I think we all need to kind of step back and realize that's the case. But yeah, I just don't understand how at 18 you could be this angry and this alienated and this pissed from like a very just normal looking kid. I don't know. It's just disturbing.
Trying to think of what I was like at 18, but it is.
I was angry, but like I didn't want to hurt anybody.
I don't think I was ever as angry. I don't think I ever felt that way. I never felt anger. I never felt like I was going to hurt anybody either. I was still sorting myself out at 18.
I felt like I was too, and a lot of it. I mean, I think that. I mean, maybe my savings grace was I just did a shitload of drugs. And I wasn't happy, so I just started doing hard drugs, and that kind of.
I didn't do drugs. I drank, but I don't know. I guess my thing was drinking, binge drinking.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but I think. But again, I think that
sort of
there's
put me back in line.
But you also like, I mean, you're not somebody that you like. The internet wouldn't really sway your opinion on things. Like it wouldn't really make you feel things. Like anything that's sort of politically themed. You know, and this kid was active on a bunch of like social media stuff that was all anti-Trump, anti-this, like very pro-Obama, whatever. I'm not saying that like to a tit for tat kind of thing. It's more just like how it doesn't fit the narrative of what most of the media wants, which is that. That he would be a white nationalist, MAGA hat wearing, whatever. That would just be the nice bow for them to tie this off and continue their message of gun grabbing. So I don't know. It's just it was just really depressing, and these are just going to keep happening. And
totally, they already blur together.
Yeah. But they're going to be little ones like this. I think there's going to be a lot of little ones like this. I'm not really sure we'll have like a mass event. Because I think every state is like gearing up for it and kind of sees it coming. But which makes me think that there will be a lot more soft targets like that. There will be a lot more armed people now, meaning that the person can't get off. It'll be harder to hit a lot of targets, which is fortunate. But yeah, I don't know. People just seem we're on the precipice of something not good, and I don't really know what's exactly causing it. I could just blame the media, which I think is definitely part of it. Because again, it's like if you're somebody you feel like you're not being listened to, and this kid's face and name is now all over the TV everywhere, and and they CNN will read your manifesto live on air.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah, so there's definitely like motive to do it,
and
or reason.
It's also still insane that media outlets haven't already picked up on the fact that you shouldn't show their faces, let alone read their fucking manifesto.
There's so many psychological studies on this too, like of how it's
insane.
And like in order, like it also creates copycat people, and but they still just insist on doing it. And like look, I know it's kind of a faux pas to censor the press, quote unquote, but this is something that I think is like an ethical issue.
Totally.
That. It's sort of like the same thing as like you don't show super graphic shit. It's all kind of the same deal. And the internet can't be stopped, so you can find the name on there if you really want to, or like the graphic video, which there's plenty of places you can go to find these things. But the thing that needs to talk for 24 hours shouldn't have access to this information.
Yeah,
because they just won't stop. That's all they talk about. Right. And then this kid gets a 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah, there's news. Gosh, I think I've said this on the podcast before, but news in England or even in Europe, I guess, it's so vastly different. They have an hour segment of here's the news, and then they repeat that hour segment every single day, and it's so vastly different from what we have here, where we have these 24-hour businesses that broadcast opinion and sort of news.
I mean, I think what you saw there is just that they don't have the sheer number of them as we do. Like, so, like you're probably describing PBS NewsHour. I mean, it's kind of the same deal. It's just like here's information.
That's all they have over there.
No, there's plenty of them, but you're thinking of like probably the BBC, which just their straight line program, not any of their fringy ones. It's just news. I mean, what they choose to talk about can be sort of slanted, but in general, and same with PBS. But at the same time, it's like I think anybody with half a brain wouldn't shit on BBC's straight line stuff,
right?
And then same with PBS.
What I'm saying is, I wish we had, and the thing is, we won't ever because
of ratings.
Because of ratings, we won't ever have this 1 hour cycle of the news of today, and it changes every 12 hours.
Right.
We'll never have that because of the climate that we live in and the business that we generate for these outlets, these media outlets. But I so desperately wish that we would have this moment, have that in our future, that we can actually return to true news. It's not news anymore.
No, it's all bullshit. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I like things like Joe Rogan so much is, you'll have somebody like every guest does end up giving their opinion about the news, but it's in the context of a 3-hour conversation. And then when you get sick of that guest, there's another person on who
has the opposite view.
He's going to talk about AI and shit that something completely unrelated. He had this young person on yesterday. I God, I wish I could remember his name, but it was just the podcast he did yesterday with a researcher at MIT. They're talking a lot about deep fakes, and but his focus actually is self-driving cars, and it was so crazy. This is going to be a complete shift. I'm sorry, guys.
No, let's please.
I found it so interesting. So he was talking about. Have you heard about these Boeings that have been crashing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know what has been causing it?
It's like this. It thinks it's nosediving or something.
Yeah. Good.
And so it shuts down.
What it was. This is so fucking crazy that they did this. So they updated the firmware on these planes that basically if it detects that the nose is up, it'll automatically readjust the plane, which then causes it to stall. Because it was a bug in the firmware. They didn't notify any of the pilots that they had updated the firmware, and this was by design in the company because they didn't want you to start to futz with things like that you didn't need to. But like it just took one little errant piece of code to crash these two planes and kill hundreds of people. So what they were talking about was Tesla and the future of self-driving cars, and how Teslas are the only self-driving car that exists in which the firmware is automatically updated. And he was talking about his fear of a similar sort of thing happening, because there have been a handful of fatalities with Tesla's self-driving, but it usually is due to like driver negligence. Like obviously the technology is really reliable, but it's not fully autonomous yet. Like meaning it can't predict, so there is something amazing it can do. For example, it can predict potholes because potholes tend to stay for a while. So the cars will start to learn and go around it. But it can't predict road work. So like a lot of these accidents are happening in road work areas because they pop up, move around, and then like none of these obstacles are planned out in the route. And so that's usually when these accidents are ending up happening. And so it's not at the point yet where it can be fully autonomous, but Tesla's the only company that's sort of like, fuck it and use at your own risk kind of thing.
Yeah.
Most companies make you touch, like they have apparently like they were saying that when you touch the Tesla's wheel, it like activates or whatever. It's like all these self-driving cars have like sensors in the wheel.
Yeah.
And so so like most of them will, if you take your hands off the wheel for 6 seconds, it'll be like, hey, put it back on. And but Tesla's like the only one that's sort of like, just go ahead and do your thing. As far as I know, I've never been in one that's been self-driving before, so I don't really know. But or at least the one that I was in, I don't know if it had any limitations to it, because it was like a factory one from a friend of mine. But yeah, so it's an interesting sort of thing about the future of this, but just how so they started continuing. They're talking about deep fakes and all these kinds of things, and they were talking about AI and kind of how it's going to be integrated into everything. But it made me kind of question whether or not AI it might be sort of self-aware, in the sense of if it's learning, then isn't it already kind of online in a way?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's like a philosophical thought. I don't know if
the lights are on. Is that what you mean?
In a way, but if it's like already learning and building and then making decisions, like right. Meaning like the car learning that there's a pothole and then avoiding it.
Do you think it could, not to take this in like a negative direction, but do you think it has the capability right now to learn where potholes are but choose not to acknowledge them?
So that's kind of the thing, right? So perhaps, but then also too, like that's also the more scary prospect, is that someone could very easily hack into your car and accelerate it to 200 miles an hour and kill you. And if it's able to receive updates through the air, who is to stop somebody from being able to do this? And then, it's this kind of illusion of safety. Everyone says, well, Tesla has the best, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, there's some black hat hacker out there who's better than anyone at Tesla. Because what happens is black hat hackers get hired by legitimate corporations because they can't stop them. And they're like, well, we want to arrest you, but you have to work for us now. It's kind of like catch me if you can sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But it did give me a little bit of pause about maybe this technology will not move as fast as we kind of thought it would, but I don't know. It was just a very interesting podcast.
I saw this really bizarre video. I don't know if you saw it. I should have sent it to you. There was this video of this guy taking video of the street, and the video was erasing the cars from the street.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that?
The neural net thing, yeah.
What is that about?
So basically, it's like like augmented reality, and it was interesting because it was very much like a Black Mirror episode. In the sense of like someone made a comment on it that I thought was pretty accurate. Of like, oh, now I can go to the beach and then not see any people there. I can actually be at the beach alone, and it's so yeah. That's kind of what I think the future of the technology is, that you could physically, like, for instance, too, like, I mean, to take it in a really dystopian direction, you can mute people on Twitter. Now you can mute people in real life.
Yeah. Oof.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I just thought that video was bizarre. Incredible, but so bizarre. Seeing those cars disappear pretty well.
Pretty well, yeah.
Except for that giant truck that went by, but you can't really...
No, if it's moving, I think it's very difficult if it's moving. Yeah. And, like, you would notice that it would break up when he would move the camera around.
Yeah.
But it was...
The cars parked on the side of the street, gone.
It was effective, yeah.
It was weird.
I was watching this thing on deep faking today, and basically with like any technology that seems amazing like that, assume that it's already 10 years ahead of what you're seeing now, because it is. So again, our reality, it really does make me question whether or not our reality as we know it is reality, because I feel like we're able to simulate reality almost flawlessly now. And so it's just, I don't know, like every day that technology advances in whatever reality we're in now makes me think that we're not in a reality. Like, yeah, like this isn't flesh and sinew and shit. This is just like, I don't know what it is. Or we're like some experiment. I don't know, but
we're living in a petri dish.
It's crazy. It's like,
like cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or like in a drop of water or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, who knows? But
well, yeah, you can't know. I mean, if you get small enough, you start to see things that look like this.
Right.
And if you get big enough, you start to see things that look like this. Or theoretically, I mean, we could be a speck of dust in another fucking universe that has people just like us.
Right.
Or people just like who knows what. Mm-hmm. Or if you get small enough, we can't even like look at the shape of an atom, or we can't look at the shape of an electron, but we kind of assume it's round,
right?
Because that's sort of how gravity works for us in this reality. Who's to say there's not a smaller particle that's a planet in that electron that is a quote planet by our definition,
right?
You know, it's crazy.
It is.
And it's so stupid. I'm in like an entry level chem class, but it's been blowing my mind a lot, just because I have this really wonderful professor. Dude, I'm tangent, but like I'm so relieved that my grade, I did really poorly on a test in my chem class, and it brought my grade down like 3 points. It was I'm just so proud of myself because I didn't study for that test, but I've done well enough in the class to have that test where I got a C or a D not affect my grade at all, really. Anyways, this chem class is just sort of blowing my mind because of, I don't know, thinking about how things work or trying to explain how things work. It's not necessarily a true explanation. It's just a way to explain what we see.
Right.
My chem professor keeps telling me to consider going into this field, and I keep telling her, like, no, I don't have any desire to work as a chemist of any kind. But we've been talking a lot about, I mean, the last chapter is liquids and solids, and every single chapter just gets more and more interesting for me. Learning sort of about how liquids work, this evaporation thing, I just thought, you know, water heats up, it evaporates, but when you really get down to it, it's just these water molecules are pushing each other out of the glass of water that they're in, and if they get pushed hard enough, they end up staying in the air as water vapor. The only reason they push each other around is because of the temperature of the water, which is just the energy of the water. It's all just so fucking crazy to me. And why not? Why wouldn't there be a whole nother system of life on a particle like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we already know in terms of bacterium and how small that is.
That's tiny. But what if we got even fucking smaller?
Well, yeah,
we can't even see it.
We'll find out. I mean,
Yeah.
like I think that's what a lot of what the Hadron Collider was for. It was just, and we did find a smaller thing through that experiment, and so.
But it only existed for like a second, right?
Yeah, which is very interesting in terms of there being sort of an interdimensional kind of thing. Like I hate to use that word exactly, because I'm not sure that's exactly what I mean, but it's in terms of the idea of you and I having this conversation in parallel in another space that isn't this one, to me, is a pretty likely probability.
And even, God, time works so differently than how we think it works.
Right.
In other places, far out in space, time is totally different.
Right.
Small, like electrons, time is different for them than it is for us.
Right.
So things could be happening all at once. Things could be happening 50 years from now that are actually happening right now. It's all so mind blowing to me.
On that note,
Is that it?
no. Well, I
Did I just get to surface level stoner? Is that
I think
that
that's
what
about
it was?
Yeah. We just want to close it out by saying we're going to see Detective Pikachu. Because
Excuse me, I was taking a
unlike
sip.
the abomination that is the Sonic movie,
Oh.
this one actually looks like it
It's
may
so
be
cute.
entertaining. And
Yeah, it comes out tomorrow evening. I think we're going to see it Friday.
You said
right?
you had predictions, right?
Oh, I was just going to say we should think of some predictions.
Oh, I see.
Well, Mewtwo is in the movie, so
I'm so out of like Pokemon canon and lore that I mean I kind of know things, but I don't know. I feel like this is not really going to be about that necessarily. It's going to be something entirely different, but just happens to feature Pokemon characters so they can build a franchise.
I think maybe. Well, Mewtwo will have to play a role in this if they did show him at all in any of the teaser trailers, which they did. But I think the whole story is that the 21-year-old kid loses his dad. His dad mysteriously disappears. His dad's like a detective. He meets this Pikachu. He can only he's the only one who can understand this Pikachu. They go on a search for his dad. I think the lore behind Mewtwo is going to play a little bit of a role in this because it's always been somewhat of a mystery until the first Pokemon movie, but still, even then, I think there's more to explore there and how Mew came about. But I think maybe his dad's going to be involved somehow in the creation of Mewtwo. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to it. And Ryan, this is like a Deadpool movie for kids, for
Yeah.
young adults or Pokemon fans.
Yeah, no, I
what we
mean, that's
should
what's
say.
so weird about Pokemon is that it was such a pervasive part of my life, and I'm almost 30, that I was sort of a ground zero of it, I think, like age-wise, and it was such a phenomenon. I mean, like, imagine what Pokemon Go was like, but organic, where it wasn't, like, the internet wasn't really pushing it. It was just, like, this massive phenomenon.
It happened and everybody exploded.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But yeah, so we'll see that, and that's all I got.
Yay.
All right, everybody, we love you,
Love you.
and Shunk My Corn.
Yes. Another time.
Another time.
Oh, God.
Basket.